Hello, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm with the QC Geek Lounge. I'm doing another live session on the Hitchhiker's Guide to Getting Certified. Now, I had some issues during the live session with my audio, so I wanted to give you guys a proper introduction. I'm going to go ahead and get you guys started. You didn't miss anything. Go ahead and leave any comments below. Thanks. That last slide over again then. So some reasons why you would get certified. There's three big things. One, is it in line with your career? Personally, is it something that you need to work on yourself to get to where you need to go? The second reason would be, does it directly impact your employer? So maybe there's a hole or a gap that you're trying to fill. A scenario I just used was like AWS. So let's say AWS is becoming big. You think that's something that you guys should be getting into? Well, that's a hole that you can fill, and you can go to your employer and go, hey, I'm thinking about that we should start getting into AWS. Is there any way that I can get certified? You guys can send me out, get me certified, and then I can bring the knowledge back. And that's a skill set that we can provide for our clients and make some money off of it. And employers are huge on that. So that's something that would directly impact the employer. Another reason would be, are you interested in the topic? So let's say you're interested in security, or you're interested in networks, or something just off like programming or something. And that might not be what you do day to day, but you're interested in it. Running through a certification path would be a perfect way for you to get, build. It gives you the framework that you need to learn and do a deep dive. So just being interested, you don't even have to go and get certified. Actually, you can just use the certification books and the materials. There's so much out there wrapped around certifications that you can do a deep dive all the way until get certified if you're interested in it. So that can provide you the framework to do so. So the top three reasons why I think people start thinking about getting certified would be, is it going to help you personally? Might not help you right now, but it's going to help you personally. Or does it directly impact your employer? Are you filling a void, or are you trying to step up, get onto a certain team? Or are you just interested in the topic, and the certification give you that framework? Now, choosing the right certification topic is very important. So let's say you're going to do general help desk. I would say something like CompTIA A plus would be for you. Basic networking, CompTIA Net Plus would be for you. Intermediate networking, now that would scale from intermediate, basic, intermediate, and even to advanced if you continued going, because Cisco has a giant framework for networking, obviously, because that's what they do. But CCNA would be a good one for you. Like if that's going to be your career, and you're going to make a career out of it, and you need to know about the wide range like Cisco routers, switches, and all that, CCNA is for you. It's really nice program. Could take you, 6 months to a year to get through that, though. CompTIA Net Plus could be a 3-month thing. So that's kind of why I put in the intermediate bracket there. So server administration, Microsoft's MCSE, that's a big one. Everyone is pretty familiar with that. Virtualization, VMware data center virtualization is the main one to go to for that. So depending on what you want to do, you really want to pick what actually makes sense. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to do security. You might want to start off with CompTIA's security exam. If you're just getting out of high school or college, right out of the gate, because that's going to kind of get your feet wet before you jump into the bigger things. So you're not going to get out and then jump right into CISSP, right? Because you need some base knowledge, some experience, and things like that. But security, CompTIA security, they can get you in when you're pretty green and get you where you need to go. Then you can start working on your skill set. Then you can work on, CISSP. So there's definitely some stepping stones of certifications that you should probably take rather than just taking the highest one. So find out what those lower tier ones and what fit for you if you're trying to grow from zero to expert. But if you've already been in the field, sometimes you can just jump into a higher tier certification. So make sure you choose the right certification topic for yourself. So the next thing would be creating a SMART goal. So I use this and various things, throughout life, really, whenever I'm trying to set a goal. So SMART is huge. So the acronym for SMART is: S is for specific goal, M is for measurable, A is for attainable, R is for relevant, and T is for timely. So what you would do is you would go through this framework and you would build your goal to get where you need to go. So a specific goal, let's start with S. So specific goal would be, typically people would be like, I want to get certified, or I want to understand firewalls. Well, that's not a specific goal. That is a goal, yes, but it's not a specific goal. A specific goal would be, I want to be able to configure a firewall from beginning to end by myself. That is a SMART goal. Another scenario when I learned it was, I want to be able to speak Spanish with someone for 1 minute without trying to fail back to English. That's a specific goal, because you need to build a certain skill set to even get to that point, right? Rather than just saying, I want to learn Spanish. Well, when do you know that you've met your goal? You learn Spanish. You can learn English for years and years, and what does that mean? So you need to have it be a specific goal. So in this scenario, let's say I want to build a firewall from beginning to end by myself without any help. The next thing would be, is it measurable? Is it something that you can measure? So let's say you already have set out that you have 30 hours of videos or training that you need to do to get there. Well, you need to look at a calendar more than likely and say, okay, throughout the next 45 days, I'm going to do a video every day except for these days, and that way on week two, week two, day two, you know exactly where you're at with your goal. And if you're behind or you're ahead or you're right on. So it's very big to know where you're at and where you can measure it. The next thing is, and also measure your skill set, right? So through those 2 weeks, you should say, oh, I have a really good understanding of what this is, XYZ. Attainable. Is it realistic? Once again, if you're starting out in security and you're going from zero to expert, you probably shouldn't start off with the CISSP, right? So is that attainable? Not really, So you probably need to start doing some security, CompTIA security stuff, things like that, to get you going. That's attainable. That's something that you can achieve. It's a real goal, Is it relevant? Is it relevant for what you're doing? That goes back to the first slide. Is it personable? Is it something that's going to help you directly with your career, either now or later on down the line? Is it for your employer? Or is it just something you're wanting to learn, So you're not just taking a certification, or you're not, creating a goal that's just completely not relevant. You need to think that through. Why am I doing this? What makes it worthwhile? And timely. When are you going to achieve this? What's the object? When's the object, the objective deadline? So this would be, like I said, I want to do this in 45 days. So now you have 45 days. You have 30 hours of videos. You want to build a firewall by yourself. It's an attainable goal. It's relevant to what you're doing. You have the perfect framework now to go ahead and meet your goal. Understand where you're at throughout the whole thing. So if Jay or someone comes up and goes, "Hey man, I heard you. I remember you saying you're doing this certification and you're gonna try to, you're doing it because you want to understand the firewall. Where are you at with that?" You can tell them exactly where you're at with it, because you already set up this SMART goal and you understand where you're at, where you're going, if you're behind or you're ahead, all that stuff, and when your deadline is. So use a SMART goal to get you where you need to go. 3, this is a big one. So research your certifications and guidelines. So for this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and use VMware for an example. I took the VMware exam a couple of years ago, and I think they have the best framework for this, so I'm going to show it off. It makes it real nice and easy to understand. So the things that you need to understand are your exam numbers and your exam name and number. How often do you need to renew your certification? How much does the exam cost? What are the retake policies? And are there any vouchers for your exam? And are there any prerequisites? Okay, so the exam number is just very important. You're going to be using this throughout anything. So when you're looking up how to do training or what training is available, any books that are available, when you're booking your exam, you're going to want to know your exam number. So how you find that is typically what you want to do is you would just want to go to their website. They're going to bring you to a page of their certification and all their guidelines and all the information about it. So in here you can click on the certification that you want. So we know we want this one. So vSphere 6 Foundations exam. Here's our exam number. And like I said, just take note of it. And I'll come back to this later, why we need it and where it kind of comes into play. But just go ahead and take note of your exam number. So the other thing is how often do you have to renew? Oh yeah, how often does your certification last? So every certification is different. So I know for VMware it's every 2 years. For Cisco it's every 3 years. I don't know about MCSE and I don't know about CompTIA. I know CompTIA used to be, I think it used to be, lifelong, but then I think they ended up adding it to where you needed to renew it every few years. So you need to know how often that is. Typically, when you're going through when you're booking your exam, they'll tell you that your certification will last for X amount of time. And that's really important because if let's say you're taking multiple certifications, then yours might overlap at some point in time. So you might want to take note, and that way you can keep an eye on maybe when you're going to do your deep dives and learn more about it. And they really do it, and it's really good. Cisco does it. At first, I was like, man, every 3 years that kind of sucks, but really after the 3 year mark, I probably need to start, seeing what's out there. The last time I looked, they were doing some more stuff with cloud. It gets me back into the networking and routing side that I don't do very often. I don't do it every day. I don't do routing every day. I don't do, switches every day, and things like that. So I need to get back into it. Usually I touch it a few times throughout the year, but, at least heavily, when you're doing drastic changes, of course I can go in and out of network devices, but drastic changes and implementations and stuff like that. That's kind of what it's teaching you. And, we don't, I don't personally do that every day. So, there's some people that work in network devices every day, a day in and day out. So for them, it's like, 3 years, I kind of understand it. It's no big deal. For me, it takes a little bit getting up to speed and running through it again. So another thing is how much does the certification cost? So we were to go here. This one tells us, and actually this one is the one that we were looking at. But either way, this one will cost us $125. So $125 for this exam. So that's always good to know when you're stepping into it, what your budget's going to look like. Let's take a look here. So what are the retake policies? Typically when you are booking your exam, it will tell you what your retake policy, because there's a little wizard that kind of walks you through and it makes sure you understand these things. So what are the retake policies? So that means if you fail, you can retake the exam in 7 days. If you pass, you can take the exam again in X amount of days. This is good to know because let's say, like for me, I try to take an exam right before they were going to switch the exam because I was kind of studying for it and I was like, oh, they're going to switch the exam. I need to book it sooner than what I thought. So I did that, although I made it to where when, like if I were to not pass it, then I wouldn't have been able to retake it because it was, the retake policy said you have to wait 7 days before you can come back in. Really what they're doing with that is they're trying to make it to where people don't come in and just steal questions and then put them online, for other people. But like I said, you really want to be aware of that. So that way, if you fail, if you can retake the policy or retake the exam, when you can retake it. And that way you don't break any of those rules and then end up in a weird scenario where you can't take you can't take the exam at all. Are there any vouchers for your exam? That's a big one. Typically books. If you buy books, sometimes they'll give you a voucher. Sometimes if you take training, if you're gonna pay for any live training with an instructor, those ones I would immediately ask. That should be your first question. Are there any vouchers for the exam? Because some of them they will say we are so good, our training is so good that we will pay. When you're done, you'll get a voucher for the exam, which means they're paying for the exam. They'll give you a voucher for the exam. And then if you fail, we'll pay for you again. We'll pay for you to take it again. That's how we know how much, how much we believe in our program that you'll be able to pass the exam. So always ask for vouchers, always look for them. Not to say you're always going to get one. I would probably say out of the 5 exams that I've taken, only 2 of them I was able to use a voucher on. Are there any prerequisites? So this is a big one. Is there anything that you need to do before you take this exam? So in this case, this one's walking you through. So path 1, if you're new, you've never been certified, this is what you need to do. Gain experience with vSphere, minimum of 6 months, recommended. So recommended does not mean you have to do it. It means that it will help. Attend one of the required trainings, and there's the word required. So VMware requires you to take one of their certified training courses, which means that you have to actually find out who is certified and actually take one of their classes. They're typically around $4,000 to $5,000 for these classes, unfortunately. So they're kind of expensive, but you cannot take the exam until you do that. Another one is to complete your foundations exam in either 1, 6, or 6.5, and then you can take your data center virtualization exam. So in this scenario, it looks like we would have to do this one first and then this one. So my whole path is maybe gain some experience, get some required training, take a foundations exam, and then take the DCV certification exam. So if you want to get to this, you have to go through all these things. So that's important. Cisco, on the other hand, you can read a book and then go take the exam. You don't have to take a required training course at all. So that, each of them are different. But VMware, or not VMware, but Cisco also requires a path to be taken. So you have to take the CCNT, then the CCNA, then CCNP, and then so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and hop in here. So the next thing is cost. So you really want to understand what your costs are going to be when you're running through this. Budget is huge. So can your employer pay for this, or is this going to be out of pocket? Like I said, if you're going to do a VMware certification, they are pretty expensive. So you're looking at least a class that's probably what, $4,000 to $5,500 for a 5-week or 5-day class, 1 week. Class 8 hours a day, live trainer, all that kind of stuff. So you're already in, $5,000+. And then you also are probably going to want some books. You're going to want some, you got to book your exam. So you're going to be kind of up there. So you're going to want to know your costs. If you're going to go to your employer, you're going to know what it needs to get you where you need to go. If you're paying for this out of pocket, Cisco's a different story. Cisco's exams, around $200, $300, and then you can buy a book, and you can do some off training. You don't have to do a live session training; it's not required. So your cost might be around $500. So remember that if you had to do it on your own, if you fit into the whole personal, you're doing this for personal reasons to invest in your career long term, or you're doing it to learn, that one-off thing that you've been interested in, then you can go ahead and spend $500. You might get a $5,000 salary raise increase in the next couple of years, So think about it. You're investing in yourself. So don't always think that your employer has to pay for it. It's something that you can do out of pocket. My first couple exams I did out of pocket. So, it's definitely doable, and it will pay off if you pick the right exam. If you put your time into it and everything, it really does pay off. So just understand your cost before you ask your employer, because each certification is different. You can go for Cisco, probably going to be around $400 or $500. If you go for VMware, that's a high-end one. You're looking at probably about $5,000+ to take that exam. So you probably want to get in a position in your career where that your employer might pay for that. I'm going to go ahead and check the comments here just to make sure everything's good. Yep, looks like we're looking good. All right, let's carry on then. So number 5, book your exam now. So once you have your goal, you understand your costs, you know why you're doing it. You need to book your exam now. Don't wait till you're comfortable and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna study, and then once I feel comfortable, I'm gonna book my exam and go. No, you're never gonna feel comfortable. Just go ahead and do it. Now you have the pressure that I have to get it done by this date. And when you set your SMART goal, you already set a timely, a deadline. So you said in 45 days, I have to go through 30 hours of material, maybe read a book, and then take the exam. So book it now. It's the best advice I can give you. Book it now. Now you're on the hook. Now you have to study. Now you have to do it. So book your exam now. Number 6, study material. So study material is very important. Some things that I've used in the past, CBT Nuggets. This is about $100 a month. And it's basically like a YouTube style video, online live stream video pre-recorded with an instructor that's running through things, but they walk you through every step. You know, it's very in depth, very good people that are very intelligent, nice quality videos, everything. It's totally worth it. $100 a month. You can do month to month. So if you're doing a certification and you're like, okay, I only want it for a month or two, well, that's $200. Just go ahead and fire up your account and run with it. Um, CBT Nuggets is the main one that I use. It does have a cost. Cybrary does not have a cost. Most, at least from what my understanding is, most or all of their material is free. That's another one. I would say their video quality is a little bit less. I have been spoiled with CBT Nuggets, so I kind of notice these off things and the dry erase board, the kind of thing, and you know, is this guy really, you know, have as much experience as maybe these other trainers? I don't know. So Cybrary is free. You get what you pay for. Not saying that they won't get you where you need to go, but it's free. Global Knowledge, this is probably your most experience, but this is going to be your live training. Most of the time, they do have some on-demand stuff, but their bread and butter is live training, either online or you go, you know, you fly out to Chicago and you know, do your exam there, or you do your training there live. So those are three different main study live training video kind of material. And then you have books. You're going to want to do, my advice to you is do official certification guidebooks. So what I mean by that is you know, plug that number in. Remember how we looked at this here? And we got a number right here. So we got your exam number. Go ahead, just go to Amazon, and I'll show you what I mean. And try to get the ones from the company too. If they don't have it, then you can branch off. But what I mean by that is, here we go. So we have vSphere 6 Foundation Exam 2V620, which is what I plugged in here. Get this book. It's VMware Press. It's made by the company. Most of the time, their lingo, the language that they use, the questions that they ask at the end of the chapters are all pretty much geared around the exam. So when they ask you a question, that actual phrase verbatim may be in the exam. Might as well just use their certification guide. It's the closest thing that you can get to the exam. It's going to go through all the topics of the exam. It's going to get you where you need to go. So I would say do that over doing something like this, Mastering VMware version 6. Not really made for the exam. You know, it's around the topic you're learning. You know, it could get you there, but it's not. This one's designed for the exam. Also, there's some ones like this. This is an off-brand one. Not saying it's horrible. I have read some of these books before. They get you where you need to go, but they're just not as good, or they don't use the lingo that they do exactly as they do in these books over here. So I would say get the VMware Press, get the Cisco Press books, and run with those, because they're going to give you the best. You know, they're going to get you the closest that you can get to the exam topics and run you through them than any other book. What else do we have here? So beware. Oh yeah, most classes teach you 80%. So in my experiences, and I'll talk from my experience here, every class that I've taken, every book that I've read has gotten me about 80% of where I needed to go. And the 20% will either be I didn't really quite understand the way they said it, or it just wasn't there at all, or they were not close to what was on the exam. So I'm going to say for that reason is why I say use two forms of study material. So either I will do CBT Nuggets in a book, or I'll do Global Knowledge in a book. Typically I do a book and something else, because with those two combined, they get me where I need to go. So just remember that. Whenever they say, this is the class that's going to get you the exam, I always think, well, you're going to give me 80% of the way, or I'm going to understand 80% of what you just said, and I need someone else to explain it a different way, or I need the book to confirm it, or I need to, and the reason why the book is so important is, like I said, they use the lingo typically that's in the exam most of the time. So you'll almost see verbatim the phrase that they use in the exam. So that's always important. Another thing is review the exam blueprint. So the blueprint is going to be, where are we at here? Exam blueprint. So, yeah, so this is the exam blueprint here. So it's going to show you This is what they're going to go over, exam topics here. So section 1, identify vSphere architecture and solutions for a given use case. So you click here, explain available vSphere additions and features. You should be able to, what I would do in this scenario is I would either find this in PDF form, or I'm going to expand every single one of these and I'm going to print this off. You can actually check off things as you're studying. So install vCenter server on a virtual machine. Boom. If you can do that, you can check that off. And you will feel more comfortable as you go along. And you check these things off. You're going to go, oh yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I don't understand this. I need to dive into this specific thing, this one line item. Create an ODBC connection to a vCenter server. If you don't know how to do that, you need to study that one bullet item tonight. Circle back around. Why wasn't that in the book? Or why wasn't that in my training? I need to know how to do that. So you can check it off. And what I did is, I'm not going to take the exam until I check all these things off. Or in my 45 days, I need to make sure all these are checked off before I take the exam. So this blueprint walks you through all the topics that are going to be on the exam. I've not taken an exam that has not had this. Some of them are better than others. vCenter or VMware, the best out there. They break it down to almost the task that you need to do. Install vCenter server on a virtual machine. That's a task. Either you can do that or you can't. But other ones are going to be like, understand the technology underlying, understand, layer 2 security concepts. Okay, that is a super broad. That's not a specific thing. Either way, you need to look at the blueprints. Some are better than others, like I said. VMware, top of the line, gives you tasks. Look at this. They're giving you tools and links to go through here. So a lot of the material is right here. And it's direct console user interface. Hop in there, take a look at it. Then you'll understand how to configure some of these things, So the blueprint is huge. The next thing, being certified versus having the skill set. This is huge. It was funny. I had this slide already done, and then I had lunch with a few people, and we were talking about this very thing. And they put some analogies out there that were perfect for this. So I ended up switching this at the last minute. So I'll explain here. So being certified versus having a skill set. So I want you to know that being certified just means you have a piece of paper, right? That doesn't mean you have the skill set, down to where you can go ahead and start working on these things. It puts you in line and gives you the opportunity and the framework to get there, definitely. But that does not mean you have the skill set yet, most of the time. So I'm going to walk you through a few scenarios here. But first, I want to use the analogy that we use in the thing, and I want to thank Jesse for this. He actually put it right into perfect terms. So when you're becoming a pilot, right? At one point, you take an exam. They're like, cool, you got your exam done. Now you need like 100 hours of flying time. So they're going to put you in the cockpit, just like this guy right here. This little kid, he's got his thumbs up. Hey guys, look, I'm going to start my 100 hours of flying. So you're going to be with the other guy, and you're going to be flying. Yes, you're front and center. You're flying an airplane, right? But that doesn't mean that you're a pilot. That means you're a pilot in training. You're building your skill set, right? It's not until you pass that, you get out of it, you worked on your skill set, you've got some miles under your wing, and now you built your skill set, and now you're more than certified. You have more than a piece of paper, right? Same thing with IT. So most people think, I'm going to use this top arrow here, this very top one. So this little badge here means certification. This here means a raise or compensation, and this plus means skill set, improving your skill set. So what I often see is people are like, oh, I got certified, I'm going to immediately get a raise, and then I'll work on my skill set later. Typically that's not how it works. So don't get bummed if you don't get a raise and compensation right away, because really what you did is you got certified. That may get you on the team, and then you need to work on your skill set so you know what you're doing. Don't be the guy that has the paper that doesn't know what he's doing. So the healthy way of doing this and getting certified and understanding how that framework works is get certified, right? The second arrow, get certified, work on your skill set, and then your compensation typically comes. You'll get a raise. Like I said, you might invest $500 now, work on your skill set, and then that 1 year review comes up and you're like, hey, I got certified this year. I understand this. I also worked on these 3 projects, and I felt that, I took some burden off the other guys. I really get my skill set down, blah, blah, blah. Boom, you might get a raise right then and there because you actually worked on your skill set. Once again, you put some miles under your wing, and then you got compensated for it. Typically, where it's not healthy and it's kind of odd is the reverse, right? And I see this sometimes when you're working on your skill set, right? You worked on your skill set for 5 years and you're already getting paid for it, right? You already got raises, but you don't have the paper, but you have the skill set. And then you hear or you feel obligated to, or your company wants you to, they're like, hey, I need you to go get certified. And you're like, what? I'm doing it every day. Why do I need a piece of paper that tells me something I'm already doing? Right? So sometimes that's not the most healthy way to get certified is not to go out and get your skill set and then do it. But typically, or not typically, but sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes that's what you got to do, and then you'll feel odd about it because you're like, man, I really do know it, but real world and certification are 2 different things. Just like when you went through a college and then you got out and you're like, wow, 20% of what I learned is 80% of what I do, right? Because not everything that you learn in the school or in the classroom, directly applies to your job. You're going to learn 80% of it, outside of school. So it's going to be the same thing there. Working on your skill set, then they're like, yeah, you're getting paid for it. And then you get certified and you're like, I'm not really getting a raise. I really don't know why. I'm just getting a piece of paper. I'm a little nervous about it because I do it, but what if I fail? And then now they're going to think I don't do it, although I'm doing it in the real world, so it leads to this whole unknown question, weird health, it's just not a healthy way to get certified. I would say the middle one here, certified, work on your skill set, know what you're doing, then get your raise, get your compensation, then you ask. I'm going to go ahead and check on comments here real quick. Feel free to ask any questions. I see some people popping in and out. Looks like my audio is still good, I'm assuming. All right, cool. So next one, get hands-on, home labs, real world projects, implement. So try to hop in on the projects, tag along. Hey, what? You're working on a firewall tonight? I want to work on a firewall too. I will do it for free. What time are you doing it? You're doing it at 5? I will be there at 5. How about I buy pizza? Tag along, get hands-on. You can also pay for labs. So there's actual subscriptions out there that you can buy where you can get access to a Server 2012 machine that someone else is administering, and you just go on it and run through your exam topics, and you get where you need to go. CBT Nuggets is that way. Let me go ahead and fire up so I can show you real quick. CBT Nuggets is one where with that subscription, the $100 I think, or you might have to pay a little bit extra to get the labs. But I'll bring it up here so that you guys can see it, what it looks like when you pay for one, or what they offer anyway. While I'm pulling that up, what I mean by home labs, if you look at this bottom right one over here, this is something that I have, that I purchased some used equipment on eBay, and I just put it together myself. I needed to do CCNA, I needed to get hands-on, and hands-on is very important because if you take a Cisco certification, they're actually going to have a command line interface there, and you need to configure stuff. It's not all A, B, C, or D. It's or drag and drop. There is going to be some where they're going to give you a command line and say configure this. You're going to need to get hands-on to do it. So now that I'm in here, so up here in Learning Tools, Virtual Labs, so in here, if you scroll down, these are all the things that I can jump into, that I get with my subscription. So if I want to learn SQL Server, specifically SQL Server 2012 with this specific exam code, this is the virtual environment that I want to hop in. And more than likely, those videos are going to walk me through like, hey, run these commands in that virtual environment that you have access to. It's already set up. Open this folder, click on this, so they'll have the virtual environment set up for you that goes along with the videos. Super nice. I highly suggest it if you're not one to like, hey, I need to build my own server or have something running in the house. You can just go ahead and buy a subscription. Like I was saying before, you can also go on eBay and purchase something. So like here's one, $279. You'll get this little rack that you can have set up in your house. Comes with what, 3 switches. It looks like some routers or some serial cables there. And this should be good for your CCNA and CCNP version 2, certification. So just, you can just look through here and there's various ones. You're doing your VoIP, your voice. So here's a couple phones and some used switches. And all they do is, as people get rid of equipment, they're just repurposing it. They're gonna wipe the config. They're gonna, maybe put some more hardware in it, possibly depending on what it needs. They're gonna give you some cables. They're gonna grab some phones. They're gonna go ahead and put it on here. You can buy it. So typically for a couple $100, you can build your own lab in-house. Very easy. I've had very good luck with this. Actually, the last one I did, I asked for 2 layer 3 switches because I've never really implemented a layer 3 switch yet. I work in mid-sized businesses, but it's becoming more popular. And so I was like, I need to get hands-on. So I bought a lot of 2 of them, or a set of 2 of them, and I got 3 of them. So it was kind of cool. I got 3 of them. I was able to give one to another guy because it's secondhand equipment to them. So they just sent me an extra one for whatever reason. But yeah, you can build your own labs, get hands-on. You're going to be asked hands-on questions if you're going to do Cisco. VMware, not so much. Most of it is A, B, C, or D. But VMware, very important to get hands-on, understand what you're doing. And VMware, you want to get hands-on too, but they're going to kind of ask you where things are at and things like that, rather than giving you a graphical interface and asking you to click around. So the next thing is practice exam. So that's another thing that CBT Nuggets does. So, and CBT Nuggets does not pay me to say anything about this. I do not get paid to speak on their behalf or anything, but they're huge, and they've been of huge help to me when I'm getting certified. So that's why I usually suggest them first, and they're my top pick. But in CBT Nuggets, if we open this up here, if I go in here, these are all the practice exams that I have access to. Sometimes you're going to have some, and sometimes you're not. So there goes the CompTIA A plus that I was talking about. Now these aren't, these are just practice exams. So these are just exams, questions about the topics that you're doing. And the nice thing I would like to say about these is they get you into the mode of answering questions. So sometimes some of them will say, how many do you want? And I'll say like 30 to begin with, because 30 is actually about 25 minutes worth of questions, So that means you're sitting there, racking your head against these questions. And, I haven't taken an exam in 2 or 3 years, or since I was in college, or whatever it might be. So it's really good to get into the habit, or the, exercising that, going in and taking an exam for an hour long, So come in here doing that. They'll also walk you through how the question will be asked. If it's drag and drop, you'll get used to that. If it's one question or multiple questions, you'll kind of keep an eye on that. It'll get you just flexing that muscle of taking an exam for an hour long. I would totally suggest it. It also tells you where you're at with your skill set, right? So I typically would say you probably need to be about 85 to 90% passing on these practice exams before you go and take the real exam, because the real exam is usually a lot harder than these. And if you're taking these and you're going, oh my God, I don't understand. Every time they ask me something about this topic and I don't understand it, like V-motion, I don't comprehend it. You need to do more V-motion studying then. So they can tell you where you're at. It's really good. You're probably going to do it, about 3 times before you probably go and take your real exam. So practice exams are huge. The next thing is failing. So yes, you might fail, and that's okay. So I have failed 2 of my attempts at. I failed my VoIP exam, and that one I was not able to retake because I tried to rush it before the end of the exam. And like I was mentioning earlier, my retake policy was outside. So outside of the, it was longer than how long the exam was going to be around. So I thought within 30 days, like, oh crap, that's going to go out. I might as well take it now. And I rushed. I did probably 3 months of work in 1 month, and didn't really have a whole lot of experience, and I just tried to take it based off the confidence that I could learn anything in 30 days and get hands-on and understand VoIP and all that stuff. And I ended up failing it. I was really close to, and it was a bummer that I wasn't able to retake it. But I failed that, and I also recently, within the last 3 months, I took a Cisco CCNP security exam, the Sense exam, and I failed it my first time, but it really gave me a sense of what was actually on the exam. That one was kind of hard because the scope of the exam was so large. So when I took the exam, I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And by the way, when you take the exam, the same questions are going to be on it the second time. So you really need to know what you're doing. When you come back and when you fail, and then you have to study those few things that you're like, man, I really didn't know that question, or I really didn't know about that topic. You really need to make sure you understand the whole scope, not just that question that you know, that you thought you missed. It doesn't tell you what you missed. It tells you the topics that you need to study, but it doesn't tell you what questions you missed. So, it's kind of, it's not cut and dry. Like, you missed that one question, so you're not going to study that one question, but you're gonna say, oh, that topic I was weak in, so I'm going to go ahead and retake, or study on that topic before I retake the exam. So yes, you're going to fail. People that do this are going to fail. That's just the bottom line. And in America, we are built on this mindset that one taking a test one time really sets where you're at with it and your knowledge, and it's really not. Learning is a lifelong process. Failure is part of that learning process. Many successful people have gotten where they've gotten by failing and learning from from that, trying again, failing, and continuing doing that. So remember, just because you failed doesn't mean anything. It just means that you gotta study up a little bit more. That's it. It's nothing against you or the exam or anything. It's just you need to study more. That's where it's at. You just haven't. You didn't meet the line that time, and that could be for many reasons. Either way, you need to study more. Maybe it wasn't your day. Whatever. You need to come back and do it again, because failure is part of the learning process. And the only downside to failing really is the money. They don't give you money back because you failed. So if an exam's $300, you just paid $300 for the exam. So you're gonna have to pay $300 again. That's really the only bummer. And you have to retake it and take another day off or half day off or whatever you're gonna do. Number 11, stay focused on the path. Beware of distractions. So remember earlier when I said, you should really have something measurable. So you should know where you're at with your goal, and where you're going and everything. And you really, when you're scheduling that time out, you really want to have a healthy balance, right? So when I was studying my Cisco one, I was very heavy into it. I did about an hour every day minimum. And typically exams can take 1 to 3 months. So for about 3 months between my CC and P or CCNA, what was it? You have 2 exams for that one, and for 3 months, that's all I focused on for an hour every day. And that way, I kind of had some fun time, and I also had some study time. Or you can say, I'm going to study 2 hours tonight, and I'm going to have an off night tomorrow. But schedule that. That way, you don't get burnt out, because more than likely you're going to be working during the day. You're going to be studying at nighttime, or you're going to be going to school during the day and studying during the nighttime. Whatever it is, or you have kids, whatever it is, you need to make sure you have a healthy balance. Because what's going to happen is, you're going to get about a month in, or even a couple weeks in, you're going to be like, man, I'm really burnt out. This sucks. I need to have some free time. And then you're going to get distracted. You're not, you already set your exam date and everything. And once you start falling behind, then it's not a good feeling. You're going to get stressed out. You're going to do all that stuff. So just make sure, like I said, if you have 30 hours of material, set it for 45 days, set it for 60 days. If you know that you have a wedding halfway through, push your exam back. When you set it, push it back. Make sure you give yourself enough time. Don't make it so crunched that you're going to be stressed the whole time. Because if you get stressed and then you fail, and it's just not good. So just make sure you're giving yourself enough time. Balance it out. And like I said, you should know where you're at. It should be measurable. You should understand. I'm on day 30. I'm doing an hour a night. I do an hour of videos a night. So that's 30 hours. I should be done with my videos at the end of this month. I mean, that's you should know where you're at. So that's huge. So just beware of distractions. Stay focused on the path. and then you should get where you need to go, and it won't be so stressful. The last thing is celebrate your milestone. So if you get past your certification, I highly recommend when you're doing your SMART goal to also put down, if I get certified, I want to do this. I either want to go out for dinner, I want to take that vacation I wanted, I'm going to take a whole night, I'm going to play video games all night, I'm not going to answer my phone, I'm going to spend some time with the family, whatever it is, whatever makes you happy, make sure you celebrate. One of the cool things that happened to me is when I took my VMware class, they actually gave everyone in the class an Xbox One for just attending. So you didn't have to do anything. You just attended for 5 days. You got an Xbox One. Well, I didn't pay for the class, so I went to my employer and I said, hey, I didn't pay for the class, so I don't feel comfortable taking this Xbox One because I didn't pay for it. Is this something that you want for the office, or do you want to take it? It's up to you. How do you want to do this? And they actually gave me the opportunity, and they said, hey, if you get certified after this, I'll give you the Xbox One. It's all yours. I was like, man, that's awesome. That's a good motivation. So I ended up putting the Xbox One in my closet and waiting until I got certified. And there's no better feeling than getting certified, knowing that I don't have to spend an hour every night studying anymore. I can use that time to play, play my Xbox. And the feeling of opening that Xbox afterwards was awesome. So I would say when you're done, celebrate that milestone of getting certified. You put in the work. You definitely get it. When you go to work, you're not going to walk down an aisle and everyone's going to be giving you a pat on the back and all this stuff. That's not how it works. You need to celebrate it for yourself, and the learning and the deep dive and everything that you did, and then really remember, hey, I got certified. Now let's start working on the skill set. Let's really start putting in the work, making sure I understand what I have on paper here, I can implement in the real world. And like I said, usually that certification gets you the opportunity to be where you're at, so that way you can start working on that skill set, and get you where you need to go, either with salary, compensation, whatever it might be, bragging rights, whatever it is, whatever you're looking for. But like I said, typically get certified, get the paper, work on your skill set, and that improves situations all around. So that's all I have for tonight. I'm looking at the comments. It doesn't look like I have a whole lot. It looks like my audio quality must have been good. I didn't hear anything else. So I'm going to sign out. Until next time, guys, thanks for joining. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments, and then we'll go from there. All right, thanks, guys.